about another dimension.
And these entities, they're set out to destroy your life, and you can let them or you can fight it.
She was exercised, and voices came out of her that were not in any way her voice.
It's like a blacker-than-black whirlwind of energy.
So it was a really dark figure. The eyes really drew me in. So pitch black.
Took me and slammed me back to the bed on my back. In there, paralyzed. The chair with him moved back about 5 feet with him in it.
It started walking across the floor, and he said, beware. Just remarkable. Things would fall right from the ceiling.
Going into a haunted house is like the last thing I want to do.
Demonology Today.
Demonology Today. Class is now in session.
Welcome, 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 welcome. I am the host of the show. I need my glasses. I am the producer. I am the host. I am the art department. I am the engineer. I am the electronics technician. I'm the host. The host with the ghost of the most of the host. Yeah, there's always, and it's an improvement. We're going to have some fun stuff here. Look. All right, let's do this. You remember how we're calling it Beta 3, where we're just working out the kinks, but we're still adding all this cool stuff. Now, here, check this out. Tell me what you think of this. Ready? Well, there you have it.
You can hear me, right, Ken?
Hey, Mike!
Hey.
Mike is on board. Everybody else, let's hear a Muska Mouseketeer sound off. Christopher, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay. And Deborah?
Here.
Okay. All right. And, of course, Michael, are you on top of the mic or are you in the kitchen?
No, I'm on top of the mic right now.
Oh, it sounds a little bit weak. You can bring that up. I can't bring you up individually. Sorry about that.
About now.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
Okay,
everybody, welcome. We appreciate you tuning in tonight and watching the show. I used to say, radio forever. It's just like I'm in the habit of it. Welcome to the Demonology Today show, the portion where we talk about the supernatural, so to speak. It's Ken Deel and Farah Deels. It's supernatural. Well, not exactly, but we're gonna do our usual. We got our usual guests tonight. Like, you know what? I can't assume that everybody knows who everybody is on the show, because we have first-time listeners, visitors, viewers, whatever, however you might listen. We don't want people watching when you're driving, okay? But you can listen like the old radio days. You can look at the stop sign, prop it on your dashboard like you do your GPS. But we have Deb Johnson of the Devil in Connecticut case. Something about living through the most extreme haunting ever makes you one with words of wisdom. And we have Michael Norton with M16 Ministry in the trenches. Probably in the trenches right now, knowing him. And Christopher Sampson, he is a 7-year seminarian and a therapist, licensed with the state of Missouri. Works with rehab people and all that. And he is working on getting in the trenches more. So he's kind of like our apprentice, right? I guess is that the right word?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So anyway, Farah will be along in just a minute. I don't know what's holding up. Women. So let's get on with the St. Michael prayer, and we'll get right back. All right, here we go. Father, and the Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. St. Michael, the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the malice and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him when we humbly pray. And do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the divine powers of God, cast into hell Satan and all the other evil spirits who roams of the world, seeking to ruin the souls. Amen. Okay. So as we one of the things we're trying to get through is the format of the show. We noticed a news break because last week we started 10 minutes late, was it? Because the Facebook was lagging so much, and I thought, did something change on the station here? So I went and checked that out. I was thinking, no. Now with all the billions of dollars sunken into Facebook, it can't be us. So what happened was, obviously, we lost 10 minutes to the show. So the news segment ended up going over an hour, and I actually cut a couple short. Deb had a couple news stories even. She probably forgot what those were because I don't remember what they. One was some local news. Someone got jailed for something, right, Deb? Well, we'll bring it up when we get to that. Maybe you can bring it up on the computer.
Yes.
Yeah, someone got jailed for something. I remember that part. Oh gosh. Okay, so we were talking about generational curses last week, and we're going to try to put a part 2 in here because I think there's so much to cover, but we wanted to touch on it a little better. We actually, like I said, ran out of time, and we started on generational curses, I think, like 40 minutes into the second hour. So we only got like 40 minutes in total. And it's crazy that, the show goes so fast. And I mean crazy because it's amazing. It's even faster than the radio show. It's like time is warping now. I don't know what you call that. I think we can go ahead and start our news and get on with the news. News. Well, we call this segment Satanism Watch. Those pesky Satanists, Part 4. Now we got this story right here. Cops basically caught 4 airmen painting satanic symbols on a South Carolina church. Well, 4 young members of the Air Force have been arrested after authorities said they spray painted satanic symbols on a 250-year-old South Carolina church that tends to draw people interested in ghost stories. Now they face charges that can put them in prison to tell ghost stories behind bars, basically. The 4 suspects were arrested late Thursday, less than a day later, after deputies put out surveillance photos of the vandalism at the Salem Black River Presbyterian Church. The Sumter County Sheriff's spokesman Ken Bell had said satanic symbols and phrases were sprayed on the church columns and doors on September 29th, causing about $3,000 in damage. I guess it's probably $3,000 in sand for the sandblaster. I guess it's probably, maybe it's a brick and mortar church if it's old church, we assume. And it's not the ones that are made out of those kind of white planks, that you see. The doors to the church were also kicked in, but the deputies didn't think the suspects even got as far as to enter. Maybe someone drove by or something, or a little lady walked down the street or whatever. They're young. They get scared off easy. They will be back in greater numbers, remember, as Obi-Wan had said. So investigators aren't sure why the 4 airmen from the nearby Shaw Air Force Base in Summer just decided to damage a church, which appears to be the National Register of the Historic Places. So probably at least 100 years old. So they got the names and all that, so 18-year-olds and stuff like that. And there's a picture of a gal, I guess, here. I don't know. Is that a gal? Or it's hard to tell when they're young. Especially now, but what motivates Satanists? Well, if they keep doing this stuff, they're going to send them back, and we're not going to believe that they're going to be good with children in an after-school program. Going to teach them graffiti. Teach us graffiti. Yeah, we want to learn how to do graffiti and what kind of spray paint to use on church doors. I shouldn't laugh, but it's just ridiculous. They're starting to give them free passes like they are, some of these cases legally.
Yep.
With the immigrants, where it seems like immigrants get everything and don't get arrested, and we get nothing and get arrested for just looking at them funny, What they call immigrants anyway. Anything to add on that? We can go around the three amigos, 3 Pat amigos. So we'll start with Mike because he laughs the loudest.
Uh-oh. Well, I got to holster this one because I was laughing out loud because when you mentioned the Air Force Academy, some of the stuff I do is I have people flying to me for intensives for satanic ritual abuse, and the biggest customers I've had now are survivors of families of MK Ultra / satanic ritual abuse, and the fingers have been pointing to some sort of operation at the Air Force Academy. So, the Air Force Academy came back with the first to come out with was that the religionism, and they had the satanic star, the pentagram, released on their property about, was it 10 years ago, 15 years ago? for was it a religious plurality? So there's just been stuff that's been dating back to the Air Force Academy that's been wonky. And I'm not, getting on harping about armed forces or what's going on here, but there's something dark and weird going on there. It just didn't surprise me when you read that.
Yeah, the Air Force. You remember, what was his name? The guy who wrote, Anton LaVey. Wasn't he an Air Force captain? No, Army captain? You think he was Army? Hey, hold on, everybody. I'll be right back, okay? Just a minute.
All right.
Yeah, we need some intermission music. Maybe some chickens, right? Yeah.
Michael, how's the fires out there?
I'm not sure if the ones in Sonoma are under control yet, but it's just been weird. I haven't been in any danger. We had a fire about 2 miles probably east of here, but it got contained right away. But there's this entire towns in California, about 15,000 homes, are just gone.
Had to check on something.
Right.
It's funny. I can still hear you guys in the background. I guess that's kind of like the green room sound.
Right.
Well, that's it. It's live, folks. It's Milton Berle messing up on his lines. It's Saturday Night Live. With without being taped earlier, and that's what it's all about.
Before a live audience.
Yeah, the fun never ends. Until
Where's my sister, Ken?
She's right here.
No, that's
Do you see her? Mm-hmm. I can pan that camera if you need to move right or left right on here.
I can't find my chat room.
Okay.
Where's my chat room go?
Ta-da! There she is.
All right.
There's my chat room.
There we go. There's my Farah. We have fun talking about the pesky satanic people, whatever you call them. It's funny because there's so many dabblers out there. They're in the Slayer and whatever, King Diamond, and there's some of the old hardcore bands or whatever. And okay, let's move on to something else here. So I was going to have the. This is kind of an odd one. You know how we did the thing about the fire last week? I think I still have that up just because I wanted to show people. That's weird. That's not the video.
The power of Jesus compels thee. Come out.
Okay, so you see this.
That looked like Borealis to me, Ken.
Yeah, it's just like making a howling sound. It's like, okay, well they called us a fire devil, and we showed this last week, and this was central Portugal, Spain. You remember Fatima's in Portugal, by the way, just for you Catholics out there. But they actually had reported that these fires have been majorly set by Islamic extremists. It makes it more fun, because it's kind of end times, apocalyptic battles or whatever. I mean, it's really going to be a problem. But that brings us to this right here, and it's just interesting. This thing was seen in the sky. I mean, now Farah will probably say, "Oh, I've been over the Arctic a lot of times, and I saw these auroras." But this one's very unusual, isn't it? Very strange.
And that's not the normal flow?
Well, I don't know. I thought you might know. You're a world traveler, having been in modeling and all that stuff. And then here's basically what they're saying. Hardly a day goes by without seeing something that seems in line with what we expected for so long, and now unfolding more swiftly. What are we to make of certain things, such as the red
dwarf
sun? The red dwarf. Oh, that's funny you said that. I got something putting up later, but not during the show. That was the red sun that was seen over the UK. That was weird.
It was supposed to be pretty weird.
And look on the left, if you can see this small image right there. It's this another one of these swirly. See, I don't know if people are looking too hard. Maybe the stuff is normal. Maybe it's red, a blood red moon, sun.
That's a good idea.
It doesn't mean anything. Anybody out there with a... Is that supposed to mean something, Deb? Do you remember ever reading in some apparition that the moon is going to... I mean, the sun is going to look red, or... I mean, the signs in the sky is supposed to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
What say you, Deb? Oh, Deb's
On mute.
Deb's got her mic. It's on mute.
Christopher.
We'll go to Chris.
Okay, wait a minute. I didn't know it was on.
Okay.
Okay, what's new is that woman who went to prison for not vaccinating her son only had to spend 5 days in jail.
Oh.
And she said she would do it again if she had to, and she's still against vaccinations.
Wow.
That was our story from last week, and that
That's
was
great.
a follow-up. And that was on Good Morning America that she told that
It was
story.
7 days, it was 5, but she was okay with that. And she said it gave her a lot of time to think things over, and she said she wouldn't have changed anything.
Aww.
Yeah, I like
Good
that.
for her. Sticking to her guns.
Mm-hmm. 5 days, boy, that could be an eternity.
Long time.
Depending what jail you go to. Might not have had a TV. You can't
I'm
have
sure she was probably, kept by herself.
Yeah. Nowadays, you
She
can pass
wasn't
the time with
threat
social
somebody.
media. I'm in jail. Take a picture of it and put it on social media. They probably take your phone and don't let you have it, just, so you're not happy. You know how those people are. They post everything. But now I'm having S on a shingle, as they call it in the Marines. I don't want to say the word.
That's what I was thinking. We'd see pictures of prison meals. I'm having this for breakfast.
But I was asking Deb, you remember somebody's Fatima and some of these other Blessed Mother apparitions and so forth, talk about signs in the sky. Do you remember recalling reading the red sun? Because there was
and like the sun, that's supposed to change. But when it changes, everyone will see it, Ken.
Yeah.
It won't just be in one spot and not the other. Everyone will see it.
Yeah.
Globally, maybe?
Yeah, some of these things I just think are interesting. So that was around that time the hurricane was sweeping into the British Islands. Remember, it's like somehow or another some of these news networks started tracking the path back into the United States again. It's like they just wanted to come back here so bad, It's like, no, it's just hanging out over there at the UK and messing up with Europe, hanging out with the Europeans, the European Union. So it's done with here for now, I guess, because the season's just about over for hurricanes. So, sorry, newscasters, you don't get to exploit that anymore. But this is on Spirit
We
Day.
still have the whole month of November up until I think the 17th.
Oh, I thought it was still until the threshold of fall or something, which is like November 1st. Whatever that one hurricane was that wiped out the boardwalk in New Jersey, that came like just before the election, like 2 years before. I mean, 2 weeks, not years. That wouldn't make much of a difference. Actually slanted, I think, the 2012 election a little bit. So, yeah, there's just, that's kind of a weird picture right here. It looks like the Blessed Mother. So, Pridiola at work there. So, yeah, we're still waiting for, there's a lot of things to accumulate. Let me see. This is the Vegas shooter one here. Farah, you can...
This has been highly controversial on a lot of different levels, folks, because if we are to trust our mainstream media to give us the correct information as well as the local authorities, it would appear that there is only one shooter. There is a number of dead, sadly. It's a great tragedy. If we are to go beyond that bubble of trust and truth and look at some of the details and to delve further into the land of no man's land of unsubstantiated truths such as eyewitness testimony other than the one dead man that cannot testify on his own behalf.
That's for sure.
And then we have the first person that supposedly encountered the dead man and was shot by the dead man and can confirm the timeline. What we're looking at is a lot of, shall we say, misdirection, half-truths. We have seen multiple sound bites of first-hand witnesses that not only say there was 3 shooters, but this was a terrorist attack. It came from multiple places. These people are traumatized, and they're wondering why it's not in the mainstream media. They were specifically told, do not film, do not call or text your location because we have to keep our location secure. So, of course, as most of us are raised, we obey authority and we do what we're told. So, folks, if you're not doing research on these mainline events today, you may not find out the real reason, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever. I really don't care. I'd like to know what's going on. Half the time, the other half the time, I just trust in God. In this case, what we have is we have a Las Vegas shooter, supposedly lone shooter, that was considered by many to not have it in him, be a little weird, be a little eccentric, but what accountant have you ever met that's not a little weird? People that crunch numbers, I'd rather crunch chocolate. But people that crunch numbers, they have a different mindset. Now, Michael Norton, you aside, okay, because I know you crunch things that are really intelligent and I can't even fathom. But, I crunch colors. I crunch colors. And my eccentricity is different from an accountant's. Now, I know this is really going to be totally off topic, but as far as I'm concerned, this has everything to do with the spiritual nature and the spiritual warfare that we're dealing with today, folks. Look at the only known photo we have of this man. From the first time you see it, you realize there's something so wrong about it, you just don't know what it is. Well, the reason why it bothered me, it takes me back about 25 years. The guy's dead in the picture. His hand is photoshopped to look like he's drinking, and his girlfriend looks like she's all tucked up under him. I guarantee you, if we were to ever able to ask her honestly, that picture was never taken. So, folks, the point of it is that the spiritual warfare battles daily on this planet, we're going to be getting a lot of misinformation. A lot of people are going to be coming out of the sky saying, hey, I'm Jesus. Hey, I see Jesus. There was one recently in India that cropped up even on a Catholic news site that said a bunch of kids saw, I don't know if you guys heard about it, about a Blessed Mary apparition. And she actually chased these kids down and go, don't go. All right. I don't really recall, okay, in any of the, now I'm talking about very, very hardline saints. Okay, when we look at, what God says and what Jesus says, we look at the saints, we look at the Bible, we look at the magisterium of the church, which, has a filter. Never heard of the Blessed Mother chasing down children and saying, please don't. I don't think she talked to Jesus that way. I just don't. That's my opinion. I hope, Jesus, I don't get smacked for that when I get to heaven. Lord have mercy. So we have serial murderers that are sitting on a ledge and Blessed Mother apparitions. I'd love to hear everybody else's thoughts on this serial shooter, serial murderer. Can we go around the table? Christopher, I'd love to hear your psychological take on what you've seen to this date about our serial murderer.
Well, I want to kind of, my little thought, I want to kind of precede that with something that our topic when we first started with the whole our Satanists buddies that kind of are being a little bit more open about everything.
I think so. I think so.
Right. The pagan I guess their one commandment, and it harm none, do what thou wilt. Even in LaVey would teach nothing similar to that. His whole thing was the whole animalism of the human being.
Yes.
And if there was any sort of measuring rod, that was it. And so, even in the Satanic Bible, he would write, someone strikes you, turn around and beat them down. It's like, it was all to just, don't withhold your lust, don't withhold your anger, don't withhold all of that. And so, as regards to shooter, it makes no sense to a rational mind, and it's what I tell my clients too. They say, I just don't understand A, B, and C, and I say, because you're thinking with a rational mind trying to understand an irrational mind or action.
True.
You're not going to understand it. I was just thinking as you were talking, Farah, the security guard which I'm not clear of, he ran into the guy first or something. Anyway, suddenly he goes missing. No one knows where he went. And all of a sudden, then he appears out of the blue on Ellen. Still can't answer her questions about the timeline. Exactly. It doesn't make sense. And I kind of think with everything that I'm hearing that a significant number of people are questioning.
Yes.
So suddenly they're like, okay, guys, this isn't working. We need to come up with something else.
I agree.
We need to kind of keep them on their toes. So, you know, this whole scenario, you know, what we talk about the last days, it's just going to increase. And what we do here on Earth is going to show up in the heavens. You know, if we fight more and wars break out on Earth, guess what? We're going to have blood red suns. We're going to have blood red moons. We're going to have these different signs. And all we have to blame is ourselves. You know, God gives us the warnings. You know, we better pay attention, or, you know, it's like any parent with a child. Hey, I told you to stop that. Now go to your room and think about what you did. But you're just so unfair. Hey, this isn't my fault. You're the one that chose not to follow the rules of the house. Now go to your room.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, Christopher. I think that you make. I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks about it, because I think that it does tie in with, you know, the whole, you know, the prophets are coming, the end times. Although, you know, we've been believing we've been in end times for thousands of years now, it seems as if all time, you know, is coalescing in a more depraved, more animus-geared sort of society, and it's not just in one place or two places. It used to be, you know, to find these kind of perversions, you had to be among the elite, the very wealthy, and be able to cover your tracks because it wasn't accepted by polite society. Now it's so out in the open, and the latest thing I saw on the news, I want people to comment on this as well as a shooter, is that we're seeing signs in Whole Foods that if you address somebody by their apparent gender, so in other words, if you look at me and say, hey lady, this is not appropriate because I could be a man thinking I'm a lady, wanting to be a man, but dressing like a lady today, so I might be multi-gendered. This is not acceptable in Whole Foods anymore. So what ties in this sort of anything goes mentality with our shooter? Mike, do you want to take a bite of this next?
Okay. Hey, just not to try to hijack you and turning into Alex Jones and InfoWars. Here's my take on it. I want to go back to we're mentioning the end times and biblical stuff. 2 Timothy 3. If we look at 2 Timothy 3:8, just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so these men also opposed the truth, and men of deprived mind rejected in regard to faith. So what we're seeing in that scripture right there is the rise of the occult in the end times. And Jannes and Jambres happen to be the two sorcerers in Pharaoh's court that Paul cited. Off of that, I mentioned last week, too, that we saw a rise of the witches trying to bind Trump. And, of course, it's not working because Trump's kind of protected with the prayers from the Christians praying for him. So these demons being summoned have to go somewhere and do something. And they're already out of the control of the witches who think they're controlling them. And I really, really feel that this massacre was the culmination of their dark magic. And if you look at where it was executed, in Mandalay Bay, you have signs of the Illuminati, you have the pyramid there, you have the obelisk, which are all occult symbols. It's just, and it may have been a psychopath or maybe an ISIS, whatever. But I strongly believe the prayers of these witches that were doing this stuff, didn't know what they're summoning, was the result of this.
Oh, I agree. There's too many signs that say that these kids, their doors were locked. In what? I don't know if anybody's ever been in a shooting situation or an explosion or some sort of public event. The number one thing you do if there is some sort of that's an explosion or something, you don't turn the lights on the audience. You turn all the lights out because everybody needs cover immediately. And you don't lock the doors to access. You let people hit their trucks so they can get their guns because they weren't allowed to bring them in the event. Yeah, there's just way too many strange things. And Las Vegas, Sin City. Sin City, I mean, did Sin City open up on a gay parade? Did they open up on, I don't know, not to pick on the gays. I love gays. Yeah, prostitutes. Did they open up on a prostitute, gathering? No, this is just a bunch of Christian people listening to the hody-do honky-tonk. Doesn't get any more, heartland of America than that.
Shortly after they, it's like 45 minutes after they were singing "God Bless America." And they showed that where they're all like holding their phones up instead of cigarette lighters. I guess that's it's good they quit smoking, but now they're addicted to social media. Hey, Deb, you have your 2 cents to add. Let's hear your wisdom.
Well, the only thing that I can, say is the demonic forces were definitely at work, and I don't think this guy acted alone.
Yes, I don't either.
And
that's right. Yeah.
And I don't know what words to use, whether it's terrorist. Well, he would be a terrorist if he's going to take out that many people. Yeah. Or was this orchestrated through a satanic occult?
Yes.
To collect as many souls as you can, because maybe they were having a ritual.
Yeah.
He led a different life. He just didn't only do real estate and crunch numbers and gamble.
But then
he
again,
had a very dark side to him.
His brother had to change his story. If you remember, sweetheart, his brother said, "Yeah, he got some
prostitutes."
Yeah,
so he did have a very dark side. Go ahead, Farah. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just saying that. Yeah, there is so much about this man. When your brother comes out and says he wouldn't even know how to handle a gun, he's never shot a gun, but yeah, he's got some guns, and then all of a sudden he's got caches of guns everywhere. The narrative is not fitting. This man was definitely a weirdo. I think he was a patsy and he was a pawn for, like, Michael said. I think this was just a culmination of a lot of different dark forces at work there.
I want to play something I think is controversial, but for you Photoshop dabblers out there, such as myself, you're going to be amazed when you see, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh. That's all I'm going to say, that it's going to show the first picture that all the media had by default was him with his eyes shut. And you're going to see how easy it would have been done in Photoshop. Another video shows anomalies, but when you see this one, that's all you need to see. You don't need the proof. I'll tell you that I saw the jagged edges and the inconsistent pixel sizes, which says montage, which says... And so she was Photoshopped in.
Totally.
Should I just say it and we can show it next week?
Yeah, we can show it next week because we kind of like drag things on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to see it now.
Okay. Deb wants to see it now. You better.
I don't know. I'm not sure how to do that.
Okay. Well, Deb, I'm sorry. My mechanical genius is just.
I have to go get the video. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Fuse here.
But it'll show that in there that you're looking at a dead man. He was already dead.
Yeah, he was already dead.
And they photoshopped her in. The bottom of her arm looks cut off. There's a hairy arm with his sleeve rolled up.
Wrong.
He's not a drinker. He's got his eyes shut. He looks dead. His mouth isn't open, getting ready to get a shot. And his brother said he didn't drink, and his girlfriend said he didn't drink. They did it wrong when they touched up the tint in his hair to try to make it look like that this light in the Vegas area was lighting his hair up. It was a really bad Photoshop job. I was teaching the school Photoshop, college level stuff, and I had a lot of, so I've been doing it since 1985. I recognize this stuff, but I'm going to show it doesn't take that long to play it. We'll play it next week just because I think it's interesting.
And the reason we bring this up, folks, is because you have to be aware. Now, there's a lot of information going on all over the globe, and you know what? We really don't need to be aware of it. We kind of need to be aware of what's going on in our community, and we need to keep our eyes open because we need to always stay awake. And I'm sure Michael Norton will find the right recipe in the booklet for that quote that we need. We're not to rust. We're always to pay attention, and either that or Christopher Sampson will smack it with a home run here.
That's true.
Basically, because it is on our doorstep, just because it hasn't been outlined in our town. And that's a funny thing. I would think, this cute little town of Springfield, we're not the Bible Belt. We're the Bible buckle where we're at. And people that we know say this has got some of the highest suicide rates, satanic worship, drug use, drug culture, and we're finding that out, that it's everywhere. So just when you think, no, it's not my neighbor, or it's not my town, it is. So watch, be aware, and keep praying in all things, folks. That's what we want you to know. Everything is not what it seems. It's just not.
Don't get carried away with that too far, but the truth will set you free, but it's also very disturbing sometimes. In this article, as I'm posting, right now, and related, was the Vegas shooter demonically influenced. We got David Berkowitz. Deb knows who that is. Wasn't too far from, and the Son of Sam murders. There was a movie, I think, Summer of Sam. I never seen that. But that was a freaky case. And they're talking about the motivations of killers and so forth. We got into that a little bit. But there's some weird thing on page 3, which is at least page 3 on this. It said, meantime, girlfriend Mary Lou attends Catholic Mass several times a week. Perhaps she was in the midst of a spiritual war. In other words, like fighting the spiritual warfare battle when you're around someone who's demonically oppressed, but there were obviously 2 Stephen Paddocks. I don't know. I'm not sure what they mean exactly by that, but this is, of course, going on the idea that he was a lone gunman or the killer. But the police, I saw a picture on Facebook of this kid dressed up like a policeman. Perfect outfit. It fit him perfect. And I was like, oh, great. Maybe he can go down here and then get that Las Vegas investigation going down here. I think he'd do a better job. Because I just think it was sloppy. It had so many holes. It's like, you don't even have to be, Forrest Gump can figure it out. You ignore the witnesses. You come out right away, said there's no motivation. You say it was only a lone gunman. And then later on, the timeline gets changed. And there's all this evidence that says, they found literature. Remember that? They found Islamic literature and Antifa literature, the extreme leftist group.
Conveniently. And
they still say he has no motivation still. What's he doing with that? It's not like he grabbed the latest tourist spot and he had a brochure for that. Would I have Satanism literature in my hotel room, Farah?
I don't think so. If you did, I think I'd dunk you.
I'm not going to just say, hey, what are the Satanists up to in this area? Unless I'm into that sort of thing. They blatantly tried to, sort of neutralize this whole thing. They tried to neutralize it in the numbers. They tried to neutralize it in the motivation. And even, as they were trying to neutralize it in the numbers, it ended up being that, no, it couldn't have possibly been anybody else. Matter what the witnesses. There was this weird, even discussion. I didn't hear much about it. Oh, here goes our train keeper running. We'll have to.
Yeah, nobody's telling me my train's going.
It's not distracting. It's kind of cool. So maybe we shouldn't even worry about it. Get out of that. There's a next door neighbor, and it's still out there. You'll see it. It was an Australian. He was actually, I'm not going to say neighbor. He had a room next to the Paddock's room where this happened. He looked through the peephole, and he said he saw the cops shoot the security guard. And, of course, it turns out we never heard that a security guard got shot for a long time. And then suddenly the security guard gets shot, but it was by Paddock, and then they moved it, that he shot him after he did this rampage instead of before. So you got 3 weird inconsistencies there. So it's just all over the place. Look on YouTube. They haven't suppressed everything.
Not yet.
I don't know why. What are they so worried about? We're going to suppress. What's that going to do? Let's say there's something out there that says it was fake. And there is some things that are out there saying it was a hoax and all the people are lying, that know what they were shooting. No, so let's say it's out there. So what? So what are you going to do? You find out it's fake. So what is YouTube and Facebook going overboard all this censorship? It's going to really cause a problem if they don't censor it. Who gave them that authority anyway to begin with. It's just doesn't even make sense. I understand why some things that might piss you off, great. Now I'm going to be flagged on YouTube again.
Yeah, they're going to flag a video. Nice one.
They already flagged one of our videos because I said that. See, I'm the one doing it now, Deb.
And we're not even talking about proctology.
See what I mean? 7 words you can't say on television. You can't believe it.
I was getting something for Arnie.
I said I'm not even going to say that. It begins with the letter P.
I want to know now.
It begins with the letter P. I don't want to say it just in case maybe
it's
it
the urination station in motion.
I'll let you guys know next week if it gets flagged on YouTube. All right. Well, this is just some article, that we talk about it's demonic. Yeah, I mean, of course it's demonic. The rest of the stuff, and when it comes out little by little, eventually there'll be over time, and people be like, that's over, that's yesterday's news. And that's how they let stuff out little by little instead of letting all the important information out. You remember how they did this? And this is the last thing I want to say. You remember the Orlando shooter? Or was it the Orlando shooter, or was that cop killer in Texas?
Which one?
They kept his motives out, said there was no clear motivation. They kept saying it over and over again, and then it was the Orlando shooter, and then the 911 call and the video of the shooting somebody got with their cell phone was edited by the Department of Justice under the Obama administration, so it didn't say Islam, didn't say jihad. They edited it and then they let it out, and it's like, duh. It's like, okay, so why? And then Loretta Lynch came out there, and she was like, basically telling everybody, don't get all, jihad over the Islamic, side of things. In other words, don't retaliate. Like, was that a problem before anyway? I mean, that the Americans getting fed up and then go into, someone's house who happens to be of that faith and pulling the prayer rug out from underneath them or something. It was stupid. Why was it necessary to edit the evidence, to release to the public? And the police were actually saying that, well, no, they didn't say anything, and then you edit it so sloppy. You know what that reminds me? It reminds me of the kid who comes in there and she's 12 years old and she's got a fake ID. I don't know. You don't look 23. You're not even tall enough to be 23, and she's chewing bubble gum. Well, I'm 23.
If you look at the common denominator in all these incidents that are happening globally, and what is the common denominator? What is it creating? It's not unifying people. Yeah. It's not, making people go, oh, I hate the Russians, I hate the ISIS, I hate the shooters, I hate the guns. It's not focusing on one group or belief system. Oh, I hate the Christians, or I hate the gay people, I hate the, non-denom. It's not doing that. What is it creating? The author of chaos. It is creating chaos. Major chaos.
That'd be sick.
And I just think...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think as you were saying that, it came to me that a number of the different mystics and saints of the church have talked about when they talk about the end times. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, when they, that were around that kind of, since the founding of America, they would talk about how America would basically fall into chaos against itself in the end days. And that once it did fall, the rest of the world would rejoice, and then move in. And if that is the case, if that is what we're seeing, then we see government officials and different parties behind the scenes that are making us turn against ourselves, and coordinating the whole thing. That's just, as you were talking, Farah, it reminded me of what they had said about the end days in America.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it just... and when more comes up, I mean, if it's related to the show topics and stuff, people do ask us, they want to hear from the source here when we talk about the spiritual warfare stuff. But this is related to that, and it's a higher level. But I think no appropriate time is better than right now than Ask Dr. Sigmund. Let's see what Dr. Sigmund has to say. Dr. Sigmund is right here. Dr. Sigmund, what do you think of this whole matter? It says, are you taking your meds? All right, guys, that's very much Dr. Sigmund, isn't it? Well, I think that for now we'll conclude. Thank you for that with our news for tonight. Hey, we actually finished before the top of the hour. How about that? A quick plug. We what book is on deck that you're working on right now, Farah? Because I think it's important to mention. She's gonna get to the laptop and spend beginning next week.
I'm trying to edit the first one, and there's just so many things that I'd like to add too. So it's I'm sorry, Demon's Guide to Haunting, stupid people.
Demon's Guide to Haunting Stupid People. Oh, I don't have a cover for that one. And we got comics for it.
It's probably going to be more of a bathroom book, kind of like Ren and Stimpy does Vegas. It's
with truth in there, but that's what keep it.
And see, that's just it. I'm trying to keep it, biblically truthful, absolutely relaxed, and also point out the fact that this time's already happened and the battle's been won. So just because you're in the middle of a stupid moment doesn't mean that you can't choose to change it. And that's exactly what this level of chaos in Vegas does not want. And, we have direct evidence of this without getting political, of major world leaders coming out against, the leadership of America in ways I just haven't ever heard of. And not that I'm a history major, but looking at the last two nationalist presidents, one was killed by its own FBI and the other one was shot and almost killed. So I would say that, as we discuss these topics and as they apply to spiritual warfare, prayer is definitely needed for this country, people. So many ways.
Keep it in mind. Our the first book is still on sale. I want to note, everybody, the commercial doesn't say it, but if you go to CatholicDemonologist.com, you'll find that all the books have been discounted about $4 or $5. And it's going to stay that way until
the reason we did this, folks, is because we're redoing a lot of them. And, if you're enjoying the show, please give us a like so we know you're out there. And if you have any suggestions, put them in the comments. And, if you are a demonologist or if you are studying, Michael Norton's also got a great book out right now for advanced spiritual warfare warriors. The advanced being the key part, because if you're just getting into this, you really want to be careful because the blowback is tremendous.
Yeah.
And it not only affects you, it affects your pets, your family, your neighbors. People around you start moving in like cockroaches at the Roach Coach Hotel. So, we've got a lot to work on, folks, and we're constantly trying to improve and help you out. We're so glad you came. It's so good to see you all. And
who's out there in the in the land of Facebook?
Oh my gosh, we've got Ann, we've got Zulma, we've got Denise, we've got Steve, we've got Michelle, we've got Dave, Sheila, a lot of wonderful regulars, a couple of new fabulous people. Of course, Jenny of the Maliks is out there. Our vital case was, Denise of the Pride. And we've got that Mr. Norton guy from the Van Halen belt.
Oh, he's on the show, apparently. You're actually in the chat room.
I see him
there.
floating around in there.
Okay, that's in the chat room.
No, I'm seeing
Demonologytoday.com, and there also is the instant reply on Facebook Live also. So there's two places you can comment, and later on we'll give the call-in number. But you can ask questions. Because we're over to the news segment, and maybe we'll make that more interactive at some point too. The news segment, not today, of course, because we're done with the news. But I was telling at the beginning at the top of the hour, I was giving a little lay-in tease. Coming up next, generational curses, part 2. And what I mean by that is that there are some things that we didn't cover. We ran out of time, and
That's not the truth.
Did we have to listen to the show to realize what they were? Well, you can cover anything and still come up with fresh material. Solutions to it, did we go over that? I mean, the subsequent week on the last show that was following up on the sleep paralysis thing, we just gave a list of solutions and so forth. But I think in this one, we didn't even, I mean, even though we defined it.
Well, let's pick Mike's brain and find out. One of our studious seminarian or a Van Halen belt rider knows.
Van Halen, who is it? Christopher Robin? All right, that's fair. I could only joke at that stuff.
He caught me in the chat room again. What was the question? I'm sorry.
You're pulling a Deb on us. Deb, pass the crown. Pass the crown to Norton.
Right.
The Royal Crown. No label.
All right,
my crown
20
back.
proof.
She wants a crown back. Sorry, Mr. Norton. You're going to have to sail away. The question
Can I call
was...
a friend? Right, around options.
Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm the only one who's not in the chat room, and it's because I don't know. We'll do that at some point, I suppose. Probably doing a separate computer. Who knows? Generational curses, Mike. Last week, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the show. Obviously, you remember it was only 7 days ago.
Yeah.
Right.
What would you include in a part 2 that can inform people as to be a great self-help guide for them to understand it? I mean, there's some things you can say that's like more advanced, but if we keep it simple, it'll help more people to understand. Hey, this may apply to me. I get it now. Farah, you were watching something today. I want to get to that in a minute, but let's see what Mike has to say on that, because I think it applies to what we're talking about, too. By the way, you look
probably where I
would, Farah.
Yeah, probably what I would add, and you guys probably see it, too, is am I experiencing a generational curse, or am I dealing with something else?
Okay.
The hardest part when dealing with the deliverance side is that people always come to you, oh, this is happening, I've been cursed. And it's like, well, why are you letting this happen to you? They're not standing in their spiritual authority, or they're just letting junk in their life come into it, and they're calling it a generational curse rather than dealing with what they're supposed to be dealing with, you know? So a lot of times it's not really a generational curse. You have to work with those people, and they don't tend to want to listen.
So they're telling you it's a generational curse, and you're saying, no, it's not? Is that...
Yeah.
Wow, where do they get this education? It's like when we get people and they start using.
It's almost like I've diagnosed myself. Now I want to go to the doctor so I can verify what I already know is going on.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Is that about right?
Right, and usually by then too, we like the 5th deliverance minister I've been to told me this, and I don't believe it. You know, it's like, well, move along then. Keep going till you get your answer.
Palm about now.
Where's that Patrick Stewart facepalm meme? You need it.
Double face.
At some point, I will probably bring those up. Yeah, it's getting more complex here.
It really is. It's just whatever. People.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I think so. But that is why we have you on. And this brings it to Christopher too. You know, because since you deal with people that are recovering addicts and people that have these issues, I'm sure generational this or that, inherited, as they used to call it, i.e., psychological, spiritual. I mean, it's not really what they're meaning. What say you on that?
I was thinking, when I talk with the clients, I find myself using a lot of battle terminology, and I think a lot of it comes from how I view my role as husband and dad, and just a Christian overall. That I have yet to find someone that does not have some sort of broken story from their upbringing. And if I do, well, they're just hiding it awfully well. But I tend to, as regards to generational things, I tend to say you have to stand at the front line. You are the first line of defense for your spouse, your children. And if that means you have to allow yourself to be broken by rehashing the past, reliving some things in order to move beyond them, you have to do that, or guess what? You will pass those things on to your children.
Yeah.
Now, most of my clients will say, well, I don't want to do that. I love them too much, and that's what I hope to do. Well, yeah, that's the key motivator there. We love our children, we love our families, we love our spouse.
Yeah.
And so, like any loving parent, we give our lives, if our children's lives are being threatened, and we won't hesitate. Well, at the same time, we, even though someone may not be standing there actually threatening them with a physical thing, we also cannot forget they are threatened by what we can't see. They're threatened by the spiritual things. So when I think about that, it motivates me. How am I in my spiritual walk? Am I doing what I'm supposed to, so I can be there for them, be their shield, be there as I expect God expects from me?
Good point.
And that's my thought about generational things.
Excellent point, Christopher.
Thank you for that. That's something we're adding into this, the diagnostics. Michael says, is it generational? And then we look from another perspective. That's like I said, this is very lengthy. I recommend that people... Oh, go ahead.
I said, usually, like I said, my approach is the demons are the last thing I want to come upon us. I want to push everything else out of the way, because I think a lot of people are just new to doing with generational curses. They want to jump to that right away. And I want the demons to be the last resort. It's pointing that direction.
Yeah, it's interesting that, from our side here, if people have a preconceived notion, we need to start in the opposite direction, definitely. But we can silently eliminate the other one, I think, easier. Because, even Gabriel Amorth and his books talk about the difficulty of determining psychological versus spiritual. And he even says that it's rather silly that they spend so much time in this when you can just go and do the a minor rite or something and then clear it out. But unless they're in danger of that psychological damage of being further paranoid schizophrenic, thinking it's demons now instead of aliens. I don't know. I mean, all of that has to be considered. That's what I mean. You can't deal with people, and we're not dealing with haunted houses. It's haunted people.
Yes.
Without considering all of that stuff, right, Farah?
I've got something mind-blowing for everybody, and I want your opinions on it. I'm doing some research for different angle of different book, and also this pertains to some of the health issues that we could potentially have as we get older. In doing this research, I'm studying macronutrients, I'm studying gut bacteria, reculturization, reflora, basically taking care of the lower intestine in order to maintain proper brain health and a positive mental attitude. And I'm finding there are numerous incidences at the turn of the century, 19th century, and I left the doctor's name in the other room. I apologize, folks, but I will get some links up this week to some of the studies that are out there. As far back as 50 years ago, they have been basically taking the flora out of a person's feces that was skinny and replacing it in an obese person's colon. And the obese person turned skinny. The reason they did this was not due to some form of experiment, but they're finding out that the flora, or lack of it, and flora being as in good active lactobacillus culture, such as found in yogurt, kefir, kombucha, which help it stabilizes mood, it increases brain function, and overconsumptions of foods such as active yeasts, or in other words, eating too much candida and having a heavy yeast type body, which means you're consuming high fructose, carbs, any kind of high processed carbs, additional sugars, barley, things of this sort actually stay in our lower colon, and they affect us in ways which cause us to have nightmares, hallucinate, can alter our attitudes about people and places. And these are scientific studies that have been done. Like I said, I need to get my little notes for you guys so you can research it yourself. So a lot of things that we have to consider when Ken and I are taking consultations, whether it's with a team or somebody directly, is, we have added to our own forms, and this will be in our published, because right now we've just got the underground edition of Haunted Investigations, but this is going to go in there, is health workup, because each of us can't be a doctor. We can't know the delicate balance of somebody's system. But when you already have a dietary imbalance that is causing sleep apnea, what is it called, somnambulism when you're walking around at night, narcolepsy when you're falling asleep, these sort of sleep disturbances where you're not getting enough sleep is usually caused by gut health, they're finding out. Now you add that, let's say you've got mood disorders, you've got depression caused by gut health, you have got night terrors caused by gut health. I think I'm demonized, and you should tell me I'm demonized. This is a fine line, people, that in order for us to help you, or in order for us to help each other and help ourselves, even if you can do a 16 or 18-hour fast, leaving the body without the high fructose, the yeasts, and the excess sucralose and sugars helps to rebalance itself. That's how quick your body can rebalance yourself. In 18 hours, 18-hour fast. That's just once, maybe once a week, okay? If you talk to somebody that severely needs help and they can't do any form of self-control, how are they going to pray to get themselves in a spiritually fit place of right reason? So when we are treating people, we are not doctors, okay? We're far from it. I'm a very uneducated person, okay? I'm trying to help heal the spiritual person, but I have to know where is their physical health coming from. And when, unfortunately, we've got so much convenience, like Ken said, it's so easy to open a can. It's so easy to do this and do that. And Ken's eating healthier because we're not buying the instant Hot Pockets. We're not buying the instant
ravioli in a can.
Exactly. Ravioli, pre-manufactured foods. It's what? It's high in candida. It's high in yeast. It's high in sugar. Lastly, sodium, which causes kidney stones in so many people.
Yeah.
So I'd like us to go around the table and just think back to some of the people you've talked to, some of the cases you've had, and think back, because like Ken and I were going, wow, look at the parallels here. What complicates this even further is if a person has a bad diet and has these mood disorders, depression, sleep problems, etc. What complicates it, times 5 science has chosen, like I said, this is just the beginning of the research that I'm doing, add, when you get an infection, the antibiotics. Antibiotics strip everything out, leaving you open to more infection.
Killing the good bacteria?
Yes, exactly. Add things such as anti-reflux medications, which stop your base proton pump inhibitors, leaving you open to infection. So if you're taking any kind of medications whatsoever, folks, the people that we're talking to, this is going to damage them in a way organically that we've got to try and encourage them back to health. So it's no longer just, open your curtains and listen to some happy music. We've got to encourage these people to try and look at their health as a long-term window into mental health and spiritual wellness. So let's go around the table real quick. Deb, I know as a caregiver, and Deb, I know how much you've loved the people you've worked with.
Sometimes.
And I know that it's just, sometimes some of them you wanted to whap with a head, in the shoe and the whole thing, and I feel for you, girl.
I speak for you there, Deborah.
But
Deb, there's a couple things I have to mention about that.
Please. Yes.
Somebody that has dementia or Alzheimer's, they have the worst diet in history.
Good point.
They really do. And people who are diabetics, they really need to be on a strict diet, and a lot of them, they're not on a strict diet.
So true.
They eat what they can afford, or they just could care less, and, well, I want it, and I'm going to eat it. But it's true what they say, you are what you eat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it does play a big medical factor, and a lot of people don't realize that.
That's true. Let's see, Christopher.
Hold
on,
go ahead,
I don't know
Sorry.
if she's finished.
Yeah, I'm done, sweetie.
Are you sure?
Okay.
Because we love you, and we don't want to cut your cuteness off because you took your crown back. I don't want to get beat with that crown.
Michael had to surrender my crown.
Yeah.
Okay, Christopher, I want you to chime in on health because, you know, we're just beginning to see. It's smacking me in the face, like going, okay, you thought it was important before. It's really, Christopher, it's hitting me right between the eyes. What can you expound on this?
Two different things. One, personally, seeing the, I've got, as you were talking, this young man came to mind that I've known since, about, I'm going to say 14 years.
Yeah.
And when I met him, he was about 19.
Uh-huh.
And bad family history, social anxiety, depression. He's a hypochondriac. And he actually has some legitimate medical things. And for as long as I've known him, I have been on him, especially recently, as he has problems with his thyroid and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my gosh.
This young man is now like 31. He has problems eating. And I said, you know, I have flat out asked him, what are you eating?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you know, when I am hungry, I try to make myself some, Hot Pockets and, things like that. Or, I really like McDonald's. Go there. Okay, next time he comes in, man, I just couldn't sleep and just really restless and getting pains in my legs and, just can't eat and all that. So, but you still have to make yourself, your body still needs nourishment. What are you eating? You need to probably go home now, get some rest, and make yourself some chicken noodle soup. And
from scratch.
I've got some SpaghettiOs that I'm gonna be fixed on. I said, no, you need basic stuff. You need basic stuff right now.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm just not into that. I just don't eat that. Okay. So, here we go with the ongoing physical complaints. Two, the second thing I had was that there is a rehab recovery community that they've opened up houses, mostly in Europe, but they do have a few houses here in the U.S.
Really?
The Comunità Cenacolo, started by an Italian nun, Mother Elvira, and she had felt a calling by God to help people in recovery specifically.
What a blessing.
And of course you have the critics that call it, that's just a Catholic cult and blah, blah, blah. But one of the main, God forbid they actually get an idea that helps. But one of the main things she absolutely enforces, they attend Mass weekly. They pray the Rosary 3 decades every day.
Mm-hmm.
They have adoration. They have kind of spiritual partners with guys and women that have advanced in the recovery. But here, talking specifically about diet, as far as I know, most of the communities, it is one of their mandates that they grow their own food.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And so they're taking part in, because work is part of it, which reminds me of the Benedictine work and prayer.
Yeah.
They all pitch in. They all plant the gardens. They raise the chickens. They feed the chickens the fresh corn. It's just, and then they eat what they grow. They're not getting the processed stuff. And the success in these programs is astounding. I wish that we could found one here. I mean, it would just be absolutely wonderful. So to kind of answer, Sarah, that's it. I see the extreme. That the one with the client I see on one hand, and then the news about the community where they're actually staying away from the process and they're eating fresh, I think contributes to that because they're feeding their cells and their minds and stomachs with healthy earth-grown produce.
Without the chemicals.
Well, the biggest, latest thing, you're talking about, sorry, Ken, is that these people are actually encouraging you to go out and eat dirt. Because literally they said, if you want to get healthy, sleep with a dog's mouth in your face. Kiss on a regular basis, swap spit. Get as many different kinds of microbial flora in your body as possible. Kiss your dog, kiss a log, kiss a tree, kiss a frog.
Don't they mean when you're younger?
No, they mean as often as possible. They're determining that people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s are showing signs of brain degeneration because of the lack of microbial bacteria in their lower gut. That's saying something. We are basically nice time for your phone to go off.
What's that all about?
It's probably time for a break. We're seeing people not exposing themselves to the exterior. They're not going outside. They're not going to parks. They're not having pets. They're inoculating themselves from everything, and they're just sitting there with a cell phone just going, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing it. Remember, we used to go to malls. We used to, lick the handrails as we'd go down them. We did all kinds of disgusting things, We
I don't think when you're older, I think it's a good idea.
It's like, okay, so if you're 80, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But we have to. They were looking at people in Japan that ate specific seaweed and seafood diets that have totally different micro-gut bacteria than people in the Midwest who eat mostly cows, beef, and dried dirt that comes in their window. Totally different, but they're healthy. So, health, it means something different to everyone. And on that, we really do have to take a break because people have to go to little girls' room, little boys' room. People need cheese. Some people need more coffee. Some people need more wine. So let's hold that because, Mike, I want you to comment on this whole health thing, too. I think, we're going somewhere because I want to tie this into generational spirits next. And after you comment, we're going to go on that. Please, folks, if you like our little videos, give us a cute little like. Or give us a little love button. We'd love to know you're here. And if you have suggestions, please PM us, Kenneth, Farah, Deel, OFS, or Kenneth and Farah, Deel, and just let us know what you think. If you hate us, that's fine. Ream us out. I don't care. I love you anyway. If you like us, that's cool too. But we need to know how to improve. And don't go anywhere because the real deal's with our fabulous panel of fabulous experts.
Absolutely.
They go
right back.
Be right back, guys. Are you looking for something special to remind you what a mystical experience prayer can be? Are you looking for something beautiful to hang in your car for protection? Try Prayers by the Bead. You'll find a variety of original, one-of-a-kind Anglican prayer beads, Lutheran, Methodist, Catholic prayer beads that are made to your specification using our materials or your materials made to order in just about any design that inspires you to get prayed right up.
Farah has about over 100 in her inventory pre-made, and guys, yes, there's plenty of rosaries and designs for you to give to your father, for yourself, for your own prayer life.
We have a variety of exorcism medals, including the St. Benedict cross, beads, anything for your spiritual warfare needs. So, if you'd like some more information, find my page on Facebook, Prayers by the Bead.
www.etsy.com/shop/Farah Rose.
Or on Facebook, Prayers by the Bead.
This is Kenneth Deel along with my wife, Farah Rose Deel, and we're going to talk to you about, real quick, about our books. So we have 5 books available right now and 1 on deck. The books are the Catholic Demonologist Handbook, along with the Workbook and Study Guide, and the Christian Demonologist Handbook, along with the Workbook and Study Guide. And that's for all denominations. While we also have the Haunting Self-Help Guidebook.
Any and all of these books are going to help direct you to not just the natural causes, prevention, prayers to assist you, to keep you and your family protected.
Yes, real solutions done by real people in the field. And we're sharing our knowledge and information to help you help yourself, or help a friend or a client if you're in the field yourself.
www.swordsofstmichael.org or
www.catholicdemonologist.com. You can buy the books direct and get them personally signed. I love the way that thing changes. So there's these transitions, so much for bumpers. We're live, but we're back for the second half. Yeah, it's like, I tell you, the commercials even go fast. That was 4 minutes.
Oh, no.
How did that happen?
I'm still munching on my cheese crackers. What the heck? Oh, my God.
Yeah, we are continuing on with the generational curses, but I think it is good to mention, let's see, where is that?
Oh, no, is Mike still there, or did he dump us?
I'm
here.
Oh, good, there you go. So anyway, we're talking about, lower colon health, gut health, and how it ties into people's moods, affects behavior, affects sleep. Folks, just to bring you in real quick, and how when we're dealing with cases and cases of oppression and possession, how we have to look at it holistically. So, Michael, I hope you took notes. Take it away here.
Well, I think well, I think a lot of times too, when we look at the if it's generational, we can see the dysfunctionality in the generations of the families. So we could see a pattern of obesity or bulimia, one of the two, of some sort of eating disorder or something going on. That's also an indicator that, like you said, either it's something that's sinful I have to take care of, or some sort of mental disorder that's causing the eating disorder. But to also comment too on the health of food. This is flipping gears here. I notice too, whenever I go over to Cambodia, and I have like their yogurt, there's something about their yogurt and their food, nothing's processed, I can lose about 10 pounds a week. And I eat a lot of food. It's just like,
not for the same reason you would eat coconuts.
No, but don't the Cambodians, like some of my Indian friends, they basically just leave the bowl right there in the kitchen. They just add milk in the morning after they eat. Everybody gets some. Don't they just leave it out in the open?
No, I steam and cook my stuff.
Pasteurize and homogenize.
It's like, everybody help yourself.
They pasteurize and homogenize. It kills something.
The area I go into in Phnom Penh actually has a rising middle class in there. And so you'll find stores like America, like almost like Starbucks in every corner. But their foods aren't processed yet. There's just something about that I've noticed.
Isn't that weird?
And I have pastor friends come back here, they start putting on weight because they eat our food.
Well, that's because our food basically, I want you to continue this. I'm sorry to interrupt, but our food basically is laced with chemicals that tricks the brain into thinking that it's eaten something, but our body says, hey, I haven't eaten anything. There's no nutrients here. Eat, 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 eat. So we're actually storing all these chemicals and all these different forms of artificial sugar that is actually storing as adipose tissue, destroying our flora. And it's like, Go ahead, Steve. Steve.
You can go on forever.
I know we can, unfortunately.
Michael, no. That was my point too. Is just there was something interesting about that, how we're killing ourselves in the Western world, and the third world actually might be eating better than us because they're going back to the dirt. Eating what we should be eating.
Well, you remember, Grandma with her jar of lard, her big tub. Tub of lard. Remember that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Crisco,
now it's vegetable oil.
Yeah.
We can't break down a vegetable oil naturally. It's because it's got so much processing. Our body's like, what's this? And it doesn't know how to break it down. But it's funny, we're led to believe that old people died because of lard, but they're dying quicker because of these so-called vegetable oils or canola, West and whatever. It doesn't matter. It's done so unnaturally and unhealthy. Even if it's like, oh, that's thin, it won't like clog my arteries like that thick stuff in that, that's natural, animal fat. Isn't that strange that people had it all wrong, like the cholesterol thing from eggs? It's like it's part of it, because we find out that things called depression. Yeah.
Of course it's going to clog arteries. It contains plastic.
Yep.
Just like if you take butter and you take margarine, put it out in your garage for a week. Your butter is going to have mold on it.
Exactly.
The margarine is not going to have anything on it because the margarine has plastic in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they've been doing. They've been throwing synthetics, and that's what I was, going to say about what I think corn syrup is. And they did it with the sodas because I was, I don't know, you call it a soda addict, and we were talking about that once. I'm totally off soda. I'm totally off soda, and I think the high fructose corn syrup, which they make with bread and everything else, I think it's synthetic. Remember the Chinese were trying to pass rice that was made with plastic on everybody? It's like, are they so cheap that they can't even grow stuff as cheap as they can manufacture it? So they're throwing this stuff at you, and our body's like, we're being poisoned. And
well, they have to get rid of the plastic, too, so they might as well do it all at once.
And you know what Lori Clark is pointing out? Margarine, some margarines are soy-based. Soy is, we're not used to eating soy. We have no business eating soy, and people are inhaling it. It's changing men from boys into chickens.
High-pitched voices.
Yeah.
It's got high levels of estrogen in it, too, which isn't good for men.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem, too. I mean, that's another story. I mean, that's what the real Deels is going to be. We'll do different shows, not necessarily this time slot, on different things. And this is one of the ones we're going to go into great detail on at some point because I want to share it. I'm not exercising, and I've lost 40 pounds. You lost 40 pounds, too, right, Farah? I think.
Actually, only 29 right now, but I'm going really, really slow.
Oh, okay.
And but that's okay because I want to lose.
I was on soda and I weighed more than her. So.
Well, not only that. Go ahead,
men
sweetie.
lose weight quicker than women.
I know, isn't that terrible? I just want to stuff a pillowcase over his head.
Oh, it's true, they do. Men do lose weight quicker.
Yeah.
That's good and bad. For the guys, anyway.
Well, we have more going on in our body, Ken, than you do.
That's for
way
sure.
more. And, that's something else, we can get into in a different show is because I think it bears talking about, and it's not racist, it's not sexist, but I think that it's important for us to do a show on how the demonic and oppression affects women differently than men, and that's something that I think a lot of women need to know because women are the empaths, women are the sensitives in society. Men need to grunt, scratch themselves, and put meat on the table. So they're attacked in different ways. So we need to do a show on that.
We'll bullet point that one so that we can make it very clear,
we totally will. Christopher, did you have anything else to add about this whole health thing? Because I thought that was an excellent point, how you were talking about watching this client go through a period of years, and basically you have seen the cumulative effects of basically he's not living consciously, and that's what we call it a conscious living lifestyle, because you either choose to succeed, you choose your salvation, or you choose to ignore everything.
Right, and I tend to, there's a part of me, the older I get, and the more I kind of learn about this, I think, with that, if certainly God gave us certain orders for everything in our life, how we live, how we eat, how we, and all of that, and if we're not eating that way, if we know better, but if we choose not to eat that way and follow that diet, my little brain tends to think, would that fall under, am I sinning? And then I think, well, okay, wait, I'm being a little too scrupulous. But then I think, well, maybe, because as I said, he's already given us foods to feed our bodies and different nutrients that go into that. And here, according to our science, and in the drive to prove that we can alter things, we're eating differently, But I see that, and it sounds funny. It sounds funny, but it's sadly true. Perhaps I think the only natural thing that this kid puts in his body is marijuana.
Wow.
That's the only natural thing he puts in. I even asked him, do you at least drink water or juice? Well, I really like Mountain Dew.
Oh, no.
Okay, work with me here.
Oh, my gosh. He's headed to kidney stones, poor kid.
Right,
Mountain Dew,
and I
my
say,
gosh. Stressing me out this thing.
When I talk to him about his appetite, well, I smoke marijuana, so, it helps me eat. Okay, so
Why does he want to eat
needless to say, I'm still working with him.
You got your hands full, Chris. That's we're getting a lot of cases, mental versus possession case, which is further inspiring the book. That's probably going to be as big as the Catholic Demonologist Handbook when we're done, dear.
Well, we're talking about food and everything. Steve has a really, really important comment I want to read out loud because this is important for everybody to know.
All right,
is who actually manufactures and contributes to some of the largest money-oriented corporations in our culture. Monsanto is, Steve Foster points out, Monsanto. These are the people that created Agent Orange. And if you don't know what Agent Orange is, all you got to do is Google it. It destroyed lives, destroyed people, starting in the Vietnam War. And also, Monsanto controls 90% of the food in America. Europe will not have anything. We'll have no Monsanto seeds, no Monsanto crops, because they know that the genetic gene splicing they're doing is basically taking the nutritive value out of the germ that actually feeds us from the plant.
And that's something.
So if you know ahead of time that you're eating a genetically modified product, if you can, choose something else. Choose something that's not genetic. If you have a choice, please. And you know what? This is something that everybody always skips, sweetie, and I have to say it. We have too many saints in our history, folks, and I'm pretty positive you all back me up. If you've got something that's poisonous, bless it, okay? Father, Son, Holy Spirit, bless it. Because even something poisonous is a fruit. I mean, I wouldn't specifically say, hey, okay, that fruit is poison, eat it after you bless it. But you know what? If you've got something that you know is genetically modified, we bless everything we eat anyway. But
yeah. I think it makes a difference, too. You can put a few drops of holy water if you're having more severe
Throw some
problems.
exercise salt in it and go, yum.
And there's a wonderful book that I
Go ahead, Chris.
There's a wonderful book that I don't know if a lot of people know about, but we actually have it and have made things from it. It's a book written by a doctor that kind of goes like your research, Farah, and what you've been finding out. But he wrote a book called What Would Jesus Eat? And in it he goes through and details different recipes and why this is the case, like more olive oil, getting away from processed, this. I mean, if people are interested, it's called What Would Jesus Eat?
And how can they find that? Is that a book or is that a download?
Oh, yeah, sounds like a book on that. Right?
Well, yeah, we've got the book. Yeah, I don't know if it's a... But anyway, so just FYI.
Okay.
No,
thanks for
that's
sharing
a really, really good indicator because as we were talking about gut health, a lot of people don't know that even our supposedly cold-pressed olive oils and our oils are not healthy for our gut health. It's better for you to eat lard and get your donuts fried in lard than it is commercially processed hydrogenated oils. Much better. Grab one little donut once a week.
Isn't that crazy when you think about it?
It's like, kind of really crazy.
But then it's the old way. And how long is this generation going to live?
Good question.
Some notes here. For all you young... Go ahead,
Deb.
Oh, go ahead, Deb.
For how people were much leaner back in the biblical days, except for like the emperors, of course. But they were much leaner.
Well, how about when I was in high school? How was I at junior high? It's like I think there was only one overweight kid in my class. No offense out there, because I'm still overweight.
Same with me, Ken. In my class, it was like only one. But now you go into a classroom, and it's like the majority of the children are, a little puffy.
Yeah.
On the side.
Yeah, you can't tell me it's just self-control. That's what I was telling myself. It's like, I'm not eating any different. Am I supposed to? But I was, like adding a lot of high fructose corn syrup because of the soda. They replaced sugar.
Yeah, the soda.
You ever think there was something worse than natural sugar?
Years ago, I stopped buying soda.
Yeah.
I refused to buy it. And it's like, because my kids would drink it like water. And that's what I noticed. I said, I'm not buying it no more.
Yeah.
Because, it was supposed to be like a treat, and they would just guzzle it down like water. So I stopped buying it, and this is years ago now. And ever since then, I drink a lot of water, and so do my kids.
Oh, good.
And a lot of people go to Mickey D's, okay?
Yes.
That's the worst
Filtered
place
water.
to go.
Got that
Their
right.
burgers have cereal in it. It's
And
not
soy.
100% meat.
How about
Real.
the
GMO
protein?
soy.
No, it's also got the protein from mealworms, which is legally acceptable up into so many parts per million.
Yeah.
That in itself is not going to hurt us, because it's good for us to eat a worm once in a while. What's not good is how they have been actually preserved in formaldehyde. And the ethanol alcohol. Ethanol is like the worst thing for our gut health because it destroys the good gut health bacteria. So when you're actually eating these things, there have been so many studies of people buying a McDonald's burger and leaving it sit on their shelf for 1, 2, 10, 15, 20, 35, 40, and 50 years, and it still won't grow mold at room temperature.
Just like
about.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
like
you.
that.
And if
And
it
that's
won't
also
grow
good.
mold,
That's also
it
true.
shouldn't be in your body.
In other words, even mold doesn't want to eat it.
I know.
What's that?
And you know what?
That's why it's
Oh,
relevant.
I mean,
Don't realize.
that's like scary. It needs an exorcism. Oh my God.
Test the spirit, test the food.
You go into a diner,
Uh-huh.
and they serve you these little half and half cups.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the same thing. That is also made with plastic in it.
The half and half?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yes. You think it's half and half, but
I know
did
what you're
a
talking
plastic
about.
and
You're
half
talking.
milk.
I know exactly what you're talking
a couple
about.
years ago. And I said, "Oh my God."
You're
My
talking about the
mother-in-law used to
artificial
live on that.
creamers.
Right?
The artificial creamers, right?
Yeah, the little creamers.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh! Oh my gosh!
So, in other words, whenever I'm painting with white acrylic paint and I dip my paintbrush in there, if I gave that to a one of those factories, they would take and go, "Oh, look, I can make half and half out of this." I mean, no, that's the first time I heard of that, but that sounds like what they do. Did you know?
The other day, I went into a grocery store, which we have is Stop and Shop up here. And I bought some sushi because I like sushi because I was watching her make it and everything else. It was fresh.
Yeah.
And then I also got these spring rolls. It was just vegetables and shrimp. So I said, oh, well, I'll get that too on there. Well, I came home and I ate it. And then all of a sudden, after I ate it, I decided to read what was in it.
Oh, no. Here it comes.
I can't give that to my dog. Aspartame is in it and saccharin.
Oh my gosh! Another story on aspartame.
And aspartame and saccharin. We need to do a show on this. I think you guys, so that people understand how these additives can affect
that
your
was in
mood.
the rice paper, but all I saw her put in was fresh vegetables like the cucumber, the carrots, the shrimp, and lettuce. So it must be in the rice paper.
Oh my God!
That they wrapped up in the saccharin in the aspartame. And Farah, I think that would be a good idea to do a show on aspartame and.
Well, I think we need to do a show specifically on the chemical additives that give us the impression that we are oppressed. We're hearing voices. We're having sexy dreams. I think we need to show the direct link to these chemicals and basically how it's very, very easy to mistake a potential thing that we think we might be haunted when it's actually our diet. Our diet is haunting us in more ways than one, and that's is everybody game for that? I think we can set a date in the future. Ken can PM everybody, and within the month we can come up with some really good stuff.
Because I think it's going to save your life, and what's more important to the spirit than this to preserve the temple of the Holy Spirit.
That's right, as much as possible.
Here's something scary. If you look into the history of corporations and everything, and I'm not anti-capitalist, so don't go that direction. Communist is evil, okay? And so there was a time when I'll tell a story so we can get over it. We don't want to spend too much time on it, but you'll find this like, wow, I didn't know that. They were finding that there was luminous properties to radioactive material. So they came up with a paint, and they had these gals, during the time when they were working in the 30s, I think it was, and they were in the factories, and they were painting with these paintbrushes on watch faces, on the hands and the numbers. And they would do this. They would lick it, and then they would do it again, and do this to keep it wet, and then they'd dip again. Well, this one gal went to the doctor, and she says, I got an ache in my jaw. And she goes in there, and the doctor was looking at her mouth. You know what happened? Her jaw came loose, and he was able to take it out and start to take it out. Because you know what this stuff was? It's radioactive material. So it was called, what was it called? Something Glow, Farah? You might remember if you look it up.
I remember the documentary. It was very, very sad because they couldn't. Oh, it was so sad.
It used to glow, Ken? Sulfurous?
It was like sulfurous, and it was actually, they were painting with a specific kind of paint.
It was radioactive.
They'd lick their fingers, and it caused them to lose their jaws and lose their tongue and half their it was just horrendous.
And they gave them mouth cancer and all this other stuff.
It was so horrible. It was
but
so
see, that's
sad.
what they do. And then someone bribes the Food the Food and Drug Administration or whatever they're trying to peddle. If it's drugs or if it's a product, the fair trade, anything. They get this stuff through. This is why you can't trust the government agencies as long as they have a price.
Sad.
Every man has his price, and every woman. We're talking mankind when we say man in general. But that's why
true,
that's why
you
this
can't
stuff
trust
gets.
the government just like they can't tell us the news, honestly. They have to hide and cover the news.
And that's folks, that's why we have to be aware. I mean, okay, we try and bring you this educational weekly forum for questions about topical news items, spiritual warfare. We don't ask that you believe us. We ask that you continue to ask questions and trust in God alone. We ask that you understand that we have had experience and we love you and we want to bring you the best of what we've experienced, each one of us. Christopher,
we speak about the stuff we have a lot of experience with.
Michael, Deb, and myself and Ken. Because I can't claim that I know hardly anything, but I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah.
We have to ask questions.
And this is one of the things that we're not listening
I think
to
Mike wants to chime in on this because the Van Halen belt is calling him to a burger soon.
The Van Halen belt.
That pretty much covers it, though. That's kind of some crazy stuff there on what food can do. But remember, a spirit team, too, was pushed through by, I can't remember the guy's name. It was George Bush the First, the secretary or whatever this guy was.
Yes.
He pushed that stuff through. And, man, I got bad stories about me using that, so it pretty much just destroyed my liver.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think as a computer programmer, instead of smoking cigarettes, we drink Cokes like crazy, right?
Well,
so I was drinking Diet Dr. Peppers. That's where I got it, and it just killed my liver.
Oh my gosh. Really?
Yep.
That's a little inside information I didn't know about.
Oh my
remember when a new Coke? Anybody remember? We're older and stuff. We have to be that old.
Speak for yourself.
New Coke came out, and everybody's like, "What the heck is this?" That's when they put in, for the first time, high fructose corn syrup to replace natural sugar. And I think, like I said, high fructose corn syrup is synthetic. They found a way to fake everything. You can buy your favorite cologne smells or perfume smells
easier to produce.
at the dollar store.
It was easier to produce.
And that's when it happened. And what happened was they said, we better bring back Deel. So they called it Classic Coke. But everybody said it didn't taste like Classic Coke, because they still put high fructose corn syrup. And they did the same thing, and it's like, I used to love Coca-Cola. That was my favorite when I was a kid, and grape soda. And, of course, they changed it. But I think, and I was looking around, it's like, why all kids, everybody's overweight now? Yes. You know, it's bad. And
back
why would this cause?
Mine was, my kryptonite was Dr. Pepper.
Kryptonite? Oh, you like Dr. Pepper? I drank Dr. Pepper at some point when I was working at one of my first jobs. What was your favorite, Farah?
I never liked soda. I always liked Southern Comfort and Snickers bars.
Oh, come on. Oh, Snickers bars. Okay, that's a good one.
I used to like Johnny Walker Black, too, but you know, I don't do that anymore.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, it's like, with all the sugar I ingested, I mean, I used to like have Southern Comfort under my bed and in my trunk, and I just liked to sip it. It was like so good. It was kind of like you're having a donut, but you're having like some orange juice, but you're kind of like having a candy bar, and it was like, how can you drink that syrupy stuff? I guess it's because it's good and it makes me smile. And it was so bad. It was so bad. I had to stop. I had to really stop drinking spirits, because there's a reason they call it spirits, folks. And when you basically drink those kind of really heavy-duty spirits, you open yourself up to wanting to punch people for no reason, run people over for no reason.
Uzo. Did you ever have Uzo?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I've drank the worm so many times. I probably have a whole colony in there somewhere. It's like, you know, you do strange things at Taco Bell drive-up at 3 a.m., so there's no reason to expose other people to your bad behavior or your choice of obsessive spirits. Then stop drinking liquor. There's no reason for it. And I think that all of us, you know, if we, you know, look at all the sugar we can ingest. And okay, I've had friends that, you know, they love pastries. I mean, what's not to love about a nice donut on a Sunday morning?
Right. Yeah.
Except okay, when you go to the grocery store and you see the rows of this chemically laden Hostess stuff that I don't know what they put in the sugar, but it's like, can you just inject me? I can't eat just one of those little tiny little powdered donuts. It's like cocaine to the max for sugar rats. Okay, so I'm eating like 1, 2, 3, and pretty soon it's like the whole bag's gone. So I don't even buy donuts. It's like I have to go to confession.
You know what, Sarah? I haven't bought donuts in years.
I haven't either. I refuse. Yep. As close as
too.
I will get to them is when they have, you know, the Knights of Columbus at church. They have one of these, you know, breakfast things, which we don't go to anymore because since I've changed the way I eat, you know, I don't eat till like noon or 1. But I'll let the kids get a donut. I'll say, okay, kids, it's after church. Because, you know, why do Catholics go to Sunday church? It's for the donuts. Mm-hmm. I mean, they buy the most expensive, most
I remember getting donuts every Sunday when we were kids. We'd stop by there on the way home and grab donuts.
The stuffed cream donuts, the
it was still sugar then,
donuts, the sprinkled donuts. How about the peanut donuts? Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started. I'm never looking at a donut again. Do you know why? Because it's evil.
Well, I mean, because they change ingredients, so we got to.
Old-fashioned jelly donut. It's like, oh my God.
Real jelly?
Oh my God. Well, you know, that's just it.
Yeah.
Oh. I like raspberry jelly.
Oh,
yeah, it's all changed. Whatever we're used to once before, we can't trust what they put in there, and it is causing depression. I remember hearing about sugar, were they talking about the natural sugar?
Yes.
But you can have it drop just like you do with anything else that's an upper.
Depressing. Why? Because you couldn't have a second donut?
Probably. Yeah, because we had the early of that. Something with, you know, the old story of King Saul, that he was told by the prophet Samuel to, you know, don't you destroy everything. Don't eat the cattle. And it was like, oh, the animals do this. Here, all the animal rights activists. You know, know when to draw the line on that, okay? Get a life. Go protest Montana, by the way, and stop protesting political stuff because you're on the wrong page on all of that. But the King Saul thing was that he's just like, well, the men, you know, he's like a coach from, you know, from football. Well, the men needed to have some football. Or, you know, I'm sorry. They needed to have, you know, some meat and all that stuff. And men need meat, even though if the prophet said that it's contaminated for some reason or another. But that begets not generals, but generational curses. And it can be just as simple as that. Guess what? It's consuming. It's eating. And we have to pay attention to where our food sources come from. Yeah. There's been something...
Do you know what I actually like a lot? I enjoy buffalo burgers or buffalo meat.
With lots of mayonnaise.
Buffalo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy buffalo because it's very lean. It's not fattening at all.
No, it's not. And eaten raw, that's even better. But that's beside the point.
High debt.
There goes your train.
Oh, that'll mean hide the
that's
train.
my train. Whoops. Wow. Goodbye, train.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, we
train keeps on rolling.
That's right. We got to close up the last 10 minutes with generational spirits and how to get rid of them, because I really want us to hone in and focus on how a long-term project this is, because just when it seems that I've kicked the last little generational skeleton out of my closet, another one comes out and bites me, and I'm like in tears, or I'm having flashbacks to something that totally devastated me at age 7 or 13 or 18, and I'm okay. Now this is a God thing, and this is the generational spirit thing, because this is what I prayed to clean the closet for, folks. I'm still going through this. And I'm blown away at the grace. I'm blown away at my guardian angel that loves me and says, this is not you anymore. This is why you went through this, and this is what the invitation. And the generational spirit that followed you. Somebody said something about obesity. Somebody said something about an alcoholism. And if you look at the generations before you that have a tendency to love their alcohol, that could be why you love your alcohol so much. If you have a generational spirit of gluttony, and that could be why you eat and you can't stop eating until you've finished off that whole pint of ice cream. And this is why we pray, because we must bring our physical, our mental, and our spiritual bodies, three, under submission to the Holy Spirit. And whenever you ask to break these curses, you must invite the Holy Spirit in. Because you just say, oh, okay, I bind it and I break it and I'm releasing it and all this stuff. And you leave it open, you are leaving yourself open to infestation. So you must replace that space inside of you that you are asking to be free from. You must replace it with the blessing of the Holy Spirit. And trust me,
plug in holes.
It doesn't feel that good, but it feels better once you realize it, and you're like, okay, whew, there's one down. I can keep going. All right, let's go around the table. Who else has got a good rah-rah moment for breaking generational curses? Deb, I know you've got so many of them. You're just picking them off like fleas.
Oh, no, I wanted Christopher to go first.
Okay, all right, we'll make Christopher go first.
I think in my own life, I think, and something that God's kind of been having me do this year is kind of look at my life. And, I was talking earlier that I have to allow myself to be broken, allow myself to kind of feel the pain of memories or things like that, or else I pass those on to my children. And, one of the things is that when we took the kids for the first time out to Arizona this past summer, and to meet my biological father and that side of the family, there's just a lot of bad things between him and my mother.
Yes.
And when I hear those stories, which I have all my life, now at almost we're going to have from 44.
Yeah.
But I think I'm starting to notice, oh wow, where in the world did that come from? Like a thought or a feeling.
Yes.
And I think, where in the world? But then I get scared, because then I think, oh my gosh, where have I heard that before? Oh, it's something that I heard in those stories growing up.
You're connecting the dots, Christopher. You're connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Right, connecting the dots. And then, like I said, I've been very much trying to say, okay, I need to turn around and face this. I need to deal with this, because I'm going to have to answer to God if I don't. And my children have to deal with these things and try to get past them. You know, that's my job.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, so this whole topic, when I think about generational curses, that it fits very much for what I've been trying personally to deal with this year.
Mm-hmm. You know what? That's a spiritual enlightenment, and we all try. You know, we'll spend our whole lives trying to reach a high point, and a lot of people are so arrogant, so prideful that they think, I'm there, I'm the holier than thou. But you know what? It's like this is what we're trying to do here. We've reached some things we still see, and I was what they call a front man. You know, just picture David Lee Roth without the gymnastics ability. I'm in a better voice, I guess. I had a better range than David Lee Roth. Right.
Boy, let's be a little humble there.
Okay, David Lee Roth is better looking at me. Okay, all right, but
I don't think so.
I want to ask a question about generational curses.
Yeah.
How far back does it have to go to be a generational curse?
Well, you know, we're talking about
generation, second, third, fourth.
Well, that's just it. The Bible only talks about going generational spirits lasting into the third generation. And, of course, when Jesus came, he broke all that and said there will be no more generational spirits. The problem with this, folks, yes, he said something that, you know, his sacrifice will break the spirit of the generational spirits. We keep choosing them. Okay,
yep.
So if you have a father, that's like, okay, well, my dad was an alcoholic. The effects of the generational spirits is an invitation and a continual oppression. Like Krista was saying, is like, okay, I feel that angst and I feel that aggression, and I have that memory. And I'm saying, okay, well, wow, I see myself in this moment, but I don't see myself in that moment. So the temptations that we give into, Deb, creates that generational spirit that not only we embrace, but that invites other encumbering spirits that lead us to more temptation. So that in itself, folks, is a generational curse. We are not cursed. Okay, we are not cursed. But the generational spirits that we choose curse our lives.
Well, you kind of hit the definition of the generational curse too. Yes. The generational curse is an unrepentant sin. It's an iniquity that travels down, and that's what you got to catch.
And if you don't catch it, what happens? You're enjoying the moment. You know, we have so many people right now with spirits of pornography and lust. It just, it's like, and they will not separate themselves from it. They will not look at anything else. They're so enamored with it. The more they speak of it, the more they give it strength. And the number one thing that we can tell you, if you have an invitation to donuts, just say no. If you have an invitation to see naked ladies, say no. And just like Jesus says, you know, the devil tempts you. Look the other way. It doesn't seem that easy, but these generational spirits, it's a daily battle. And as you go, the battles get easier. When you feel that you're at your lowest, you reach out to somebody else that has no clue what you're going through and dump on them, because we're not meant to go this alone, folks. None of us are.
You ever notice how God has given us our own free will? You know why? Because he has given us hormones to control us.
You got that right.
And therefore, you know, you could either do the right thing or the wrong thing with your hormones.
Well, you know what? That's a point.
Pornography comes in.
That's an excellent point.
That's a good point, too. That's what it is, too. It's like he removes the effects of the generational spirits, and this is what needs to be defined. Jesus removed that, you know, his death and all that. But what happens is that we are more vulnerable to that type of spirit, especially if you haven't had the spirit removed directly, you know, by the parents' choices and so forth. Because why do you have these, you know, alcoholics and so forth? Now, they removed the minor solemn exorcism that was part of the original baptism they done for, you know, I can't say thousands because 2,000 years is capping it. Hundreds of years. They decided to remove it later. Why? I have no idea. But we understand there is a problem with that because Adam and Eve's original sin is removed, but these ones, as soon as our parents who could have been Freemasons, witches, or just talking about some of the extreme stuff, Satanists, who knows? That the effects of them are going to be stronger.
Taking over, Ken.
Well, I mean, that's what we say. We say it's inherited,
but our own free will, that we were in charge of controlling our own hormones.
That's right. We do have free will, and just as
that's not generational, though. Hormones. I mean.
Wait a second. This goes back to what I was talking about earlier, so she has a point here. Oh. Our gut health and our bacterial health. See, this is why this needs more research, and this needs to belong in our book, sweetie. The hormones, I'm serious. You are backing up something that I was researching earlier. That the hormones that we get, that our propensity to eat sugar is basically part of our DNA. All of our DNA, we must eat sugar to survive as infants. Now, as you look at our organic makeup, as opposed, it's nature versus nurture. Okay, we've already got our nature. All right. Now let's put the nurture into it, Ken. This is what she's talking about, the spiritual layering. So, you have a child that's brought up on sugar water instead of milk. All right, what is that child's gut health going to be? That it's not going to really have any gut health. So what's it going to be prone to? It's going to be prone to fast food, instant gratification, possibly obesity. What is it going to be prone to? Depression, anxiety, sleeplessness, the occult. Okay, you have another child. Okay, look, I'm just being really radical here. Okay, follow me here. You've got another child that's raised breast milk. Okay, the child is allowed to sleep. It's picked up when it's cried. It's got great gut health. Okay, so it's sleeping through the night. It's not having nightmares. It's not obese. Its tendency is not to eat candy bars so much as it likes a little bit of everything, but likes a candy bar once in a while. Doesn't have any other major problems. Is reading interesting book. Is feeding its brain, feeding its body. Why? Because it got the nurturing. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is proving out that our biology follows the spiritual generational spirit that we are given. If you are born to a crack mother that was, high as a kite then you were given birth to, the generational spirits that will follow you will be affected by your physical organic being and your spiritual being.
That's right, what you were fed through the umbilical cord.
That's what Deb is saying. Do you see what we're talking about, Ken?
Yeah, but that's not spiritual so much, because she's not hooking when she's, pregnant and stuff like that. She's not adding to her spiritual trauma that's actually sending it to the kids. That's just eating something. And it doesn't even compare to Saul in the same exact way, because she's not like going to the store and buying stuff that, witches, consecrated to Moloch.
Well,
or something.
You're talking, you're talking about,
But it's not exactly generational curses, although it expects. That's why we got to do a different show on it.
Yes.
And what we're still talking about.
But it does tie in. It does tie in, and that's what I want to show, in the research that I'm doing for our book, sweetie, is that, organic health, that is part of the bigger picture.
And it's all natural too. It's like all the stuff that we went through, vinegar, that concoction that comes from vinegar, kombucha.
Yes.
It's still all natural. Nothing's added in there. No chemicals. No
fermented
voodoo.
Wine and beer.
But then again, don't go into this natural thing and say, "Oh, I guess I can smoke pot all the time now," because why don't you just do poppy oil? Why don't you do cyanide or there's plenty of natural negative stuff in the world. Just because it's natural doesn't mean you can do it. Remember the natural thing? What was the natural thing in the middle of the Garden of Eden? The tree of knowledge. And so what did she do? She bit from an apple.
Well, that was authority and obedience. And as we talk about authority and obedience, we also talk about what is the right order of authority. It is the authority of the mother to provide the milk for the child. When she doesn't provide a healthy womb and a healthy breast for a child to drink from, then the child is left bereft and open to generational spirits. That's my point.
It does seem like there's an awful lot of effects that people don't link to that. That breast cancer is actually...
Arnie always talks about
wait, let me...
Hold on a second, what was
breast cancer is actually statistically more probable in women who haven't breastfed their children.
Wow.
If you look at these things, they add up. Go ahead, Deb.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Deb.
What Farah was just saying, Arnie always mentions that.
Really?
It was almost like verbatim. It's like, how did she know that?
I know, Arnie, the wisdom, Arnie.
Well, because, it's not a matter...
right now, but, I thought, I'd throw that out there and say, my hubby agrees with Farah.
Well, the point that tell Shy that the reason I know this is because before I got pregnant with my son, there was something, even though I was my oldest son, there was something about, I basically, to tell you the truth, I wanted to commit suicide before I had my child. I was that low. I had a really easy life, and I was disgusted with it because it was debased and it was immoral and it was horrible. And I wasn't married in the church, and I thought having a child could save my life. But I knew instinctively that God gave me the sense, because I was baptized, confirmed, etc., that if you're going to open your body to a life, that your body must be clean. Your body, and I mean clean by, clean eating. You can't be drinking excessively, doing any kind of drugs or anything like that, which I wasn't doing. You can't be staying up all night partying. You can't be going out for the weekend and running all over at all hours. You have to sleep, you have to eat well, and you have to provide a clean vessel for a life to come through. And if you do that, you have to nurse. And you have to take care that whatever you're putting in your body, that means no antibiotics, nothing but, grass-fed beef, vegetables, fresh fruits. I knew instinctively that in order to have or give the child the best that I possibly could, spiritually, which wasn't a fat chance because, I was kind of like generational spirit heavy, and so is my ex. I had to at least give the child organically the best I could. We can change our DNA right now, kids. You have a new body every 7 years. You have the ability to stop diabetes, to stop cancer. There are so many studies showing that if you fast, and a lot of people cannot do this due to medications, et cetera, for 3 to 7 days. 3, it begins. 7 days, it starts kicking in. You have given yourself another 7 to 20 years of life, depending on what God's got in store for you. And I'm not saying that fasting is for everybody.
I'm glad you mentioned 7 years, because the human body changes every 7 years.
Exactly, sweetie.
People who have never had allergies a day in their life end up coming down with allergies when they're in their 70s and 80s.
Exactly.
And they find out it's allergies. They never had it. Your body changes every 7 years, and people need to understand this.
That could be from the medication they've been taking and they've been putting in their bodies, and it's like, people dying of COPD, they might be killing their ability.
Medications can. The human body changes every 7 years.
But that's
and
true.
People don't realize that. Just your skin comes off every day on your arms and on your legs. Every day you have dead skin coming off your body. Go out in the sunlight and just rub your skin a little. Even if you're moisturized, you can see the little dead flakes coming off. Your body has to renew itself constantly.
And the inside does too, and that's why, we focus folks on the internal renewing of our bodies too. I see we've run over, folks, and I apologize for taking so much of our last few minutes up, but I wanted to make sure that we tied in the fact that these generational spirits and these generational curses, that God has given us the ability to bind them away, to pray them away, and to work on them every day, whether it takes a day, takes a week, it takes 3 months.
Let me go over a few key points so we don't end the
please.
show with no solutions, really, because we haven't really talked about that. Breaking Curses prayers are on the demonologytoday.com website. Prayer 1 and Prayer 2. We recommend it all the time, and we've been saying a lot more often 9 days. 9 days is significant. We're going to talk about it if we do a show on prayer in particular. And you do those when you're not sure what it is. Some people say, I don't know if my father was a Mason or my mother dabbled in witchcraft. Oh, yeah, those things affect. Hundreds of cases, people. Don't sit there and go, what do the Deels know? I'm old, okay? We've been dealing with this stuff for a long time. Reject generational weaknesses is understanding yourself. Don't be some proud-filled, thing like, I'm perfect and all that stuff. Look in your inner self, and that's what we're going to be doing our whole lives. We don't usually reach that perfection, as the saints even do. We strive for it. We pray for it. And that's understanding your own weaknesses, and you might even learn and understand and discover over time, maybe when you're our age, that your parents actually sent something that's kind of a generational curse or a generational weakness.
Yes.
And their attributes of, like, let's say your father was one to gamble, and you didn't know it because you were young, and then when you got older, you didn't know it. But then you realized, you know what, I'm into gambling, and then you find out from your mother, oh, your father was into that too. Generational spirit. That's a weakness that comes from it. You could have been baptized, in the Catholic Church, Christian, and but you got to. It is a process.
Totally.
But you can start with breaking curses, prayers to some degree. But you're going to have these weaknesses, and it's kind of your cross. Pick up your cross and follow me.
So, I want to thank every single person. I know a lot of us have already gone to bed, and Zulma, Jennifer, Steve, Veronique, and
they all went to bed.
Sheila. Yeah, everybody already went to bed. But I'm saying good night, just
people.
in case you come back and say hi.
What
just
are
in
they,
case. No, it's like they all got to work tomorrow, and it's not easy for everybody to stay up so late. So thank you all for joining us. And if you're just joining us, please remember the battle's already been won, and Christopher, Sampson, and Michael Norton of the Van Halen belt, and Deborah Johnson of the Perpetual Haunted Woman girl, there she is wearing her crown, and Ken and I, we want you to know we're here for you, and we are exploring your health spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, organically, one day at a time. As long as you want to have fun with us, give us a like, give us a heart, share,
make suggestions and comments too.
Tag somebody in the lines.
Like?
Tag somebody if you're watching this. Tag somebody you know should see this. We're going to bring you lots of interesting stuff from all over the globe, and we want to thank you again and say good night, sweetheart. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. See you next week. Same time, same channel. Hello, this is Kenneth, Deel, Demonologist, along with my wife,
Farah.
This is something we get a lot of requests for, and people just don't know how to get a hold of us directly. The biggest answer for that is by email. They would contact us at
help@catholicdemonologist.com or help@swordsofstmichael.org.
You can find us online on Facebook by looking up Kenneth, Farah, Deel. And we have a great many groups on there, don't we?
If you need prayer, we've got a private group called Prayer Warriors, Prayer for the Spiritually Afflicted. Also, got a fantastic Demonology Today radio show page. We have a page called Extreme Haunting.
Yes, and along with one called Ghostology and Demonology to Sandbox, where you can just toss around some theories and ideas and even ask a demonologist, which is a forum, of course, that me and Farah personally answer, or contact us directly by phone at 573-990-1333, the Haunted Helpline.